We're going live.
Hey guys, welcome back to the random table. I'm a little out of practice, so I'm probably going to be awkward all night because This Is Dundermoose has been on hiatus, but we have a very special episode for you tonight. In addition to the inimitable Scudder for Mike and our host, Harmony Ginger, and the not very often seen out in the woods Night Danger, we've got Kelsey Dionne with us from the Arcane Library, and we are going to be talking about, man, your Kickstarter's going crazy. You're stirring the pot with this West Marches and even talking about one-to-one time. And in your last video, I heard you mention Those Who Must Not Be Named, the dreaded Bro SR. So I don't even know where this is going to go tonight, but everybody in the chat, put your hands together for another random table. Take it away, Harmony.
Oh, me? Oh man, why you asked me to say anything? Hey guys, thank you so much for thank you so much for showing up. We're really excited to do this special episode today. Normally it's just the four of us, but Mike was like, "Hey, why don't we ask Kelsey?" And I was like, "I don't know if she knows we exist." And then she starts talking about some podcasts. So
I know you exist.
You know, last night I was streaming Animal Crossing, and one of my shield bearer guys, he was like, "So, did she reach out to you?" And I was like, "No, no, she did not reach out to me. I bothered her about this."
Well, I'm just surprised, Kelsey. Are you like, you got to be crazy busy right now? You've got, what is it, like 5 more days on your Kickstarter? Is it like crunch time? What is it like for you right now?
It is a little bit of crunch time. It's just that there are like a lot of, I tend to schedule a lot of like live streams of my own during the Kickstarter, and we've kind of piled them up towards the end for some reason. So I'm doing probably 2 videos a day until the next 3 days go by. So it's a lot of like video streaming, I think, but I enjoy it. So yeah.
Right on. So I don't know if you even know about my channel, but especially because I've been hiding for a while, but Black Lodge Games has called me the best interviewer on D&D YouTube.
Wow.
And I am saving my best. I'm hoping when you're not so crazy busy, maybe you could come on my channel and we can do one of our in-depth interviews. So I got some backup questions, and they're kind of not as good. So I'm not going to live up to Black Lodge on this one.
That's okay.
But I'm sure I'm not the only one with questions. I know Scudder for Mike. I know Harmony Ginger.
I have a question. We can get started with one of mine if you like. So I think every gamer kind of has this issue. I know that if you can see my bookshelf behind me, there are a lot of RPGs. There are a lot of video games. There's a lot of books, and we buy them and collect them, and we don't often get to play them. So I wonder, Kelsey, what is the pitch? Like, how do you convince someone to play Shadowdark over the litany of other options out there?
Ooh, the sales pitch. No, it's
sure. Yeah, give us a sales pitch.
Yeah. Well, I try to tell people that if they're familiar with D&D, it's going to hopefully feel quite familiar to them, especially if they're a 5e player, which a lot of people who play D&D these days are. And I try to tell people, like, you know, if you're familiar with 5e, this is a more approachable take on old school style gaming. So if you've ever been curious about, you know, maybe how the guys back in the 70s and 80s played games, this is kind of a good first step towards that. And I think with a lot of especially the nostalgia around like Stranger Things and stuff, there's been an increase in curiosity about that style of gameplay. And so I don't think it's approachable enough with that pitch to people that I think they'll often maybe just give it a little try if you say that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think my personal experience, why I started playing Shadowdark, was you gave away so much of the game for free in the PDFs. There's like the free referees guide and the player's guide, and I read through those in like an hour, and I was like, there's a game here for sure. And so that convinced me. Just reading through those for free was enough for me to go and buy the book. So
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, because you never know if, you know, everyone was like, don't give away too much of the game. And I was like, well, I want people to be able to play it. So,
yeah, a full game in that free start. Like, I mean, weeks worth of play.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that that's how you gave it your first try. Did you run that adventure in there too?
No, I always do my own kind of
my
own
fair.
kind of homebrew stuff. But
you were able
online,
to,
online, I am going to eventually run the Minotaur one.
Yeah,
I'm going to run that eventually online. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, man. Well, I have so many questions for you all, so I'm gonna do my best to like keep them in, unless I'm allowed to ask.
Fire away. Go.
Yeah. You do one, we'll do one. How about that?
Okay, we can trade. Yeah, you guys are so gracious.
My first question, I just wrote smell with a question mark, so I'm not sure. I don't know what I was doing.
The answer is yes. Smell, yes. Yeah. Good smell?
I'm out of practice, guys. It's been a minute, so I don't know what I'm doing. I think I meant that you look like you smell good.
Jesus.
For somebody who probably spends a lot of times with people who don't. And so how do you walk that line?
It's, it can be tough. I used to, I don't know if I haven't told a lot of people about how I used to work at a local game store when I was a teenager. And I actually worked at 2 separate local game stores at various points. And we used to kind of joke that we should hang up a deodorant chain by the door because we were like, in the summer, it would get hot in there. And then, people where they were like middle schoolers turning into high schoolers who didn't quite know that they had grown smelly. And it was a big joke that we shared.
You'd have a bunch of kids with junior high mustaches stuck to it like a fly strip in one of those old restaurants.
Yeah. Yes. Honestly, there were Yu-Gi-Oh traps just activating all over the floor. It was crazy.
I'm gonna get in trouble for this. It's always the Yu-Gi-Oh kids.
Always is a strong word. Harmony.
Well, so you bring up something, Kelsey, that I think Harmony probably gets a lot of, and I don't know if you, I feel like you must, like you get treated like you're an overnight success, or you're a Janie come lately, and I've seen this with Harmony a lot, and like people don't realize what an OG she's been living that life in the gaming scene for a long time. Have you noticed that, or? Because I mean, you've been doing this for a minute, right? Both of you.
Yeah. I want to hear Harmony's experience on this too. And I don't know exactly why this is. I think that everybody meets with a certain amount of skepticism, especially when they start like publishing or putting out videos or exactly. And I think also because I actually previously published for 5e, like that's where I kind of started professionally publishing because it was the D&D du jour. And I was like, well, if I'm going to publish something for D&D, I should probably publish for the most widely used system at the time. It doesn't mean it was the only system I've ever played. I think a lot of people assumed that I came into the game during 5e. And to be fair, I didn't say whether or not that was true. I didn't know if I ought to even do that. So, I've been putting my gaming resume out there a little bit more boldly, just because people have either been curious or have tried to dismiss me as somebody who couldn't possibly know anything about the history of the game. And it turns out that they're wrong. I don't know. It turns out.
But I just can't believe that somebody that looks like they smell good could possibly know what they're talking about. Harmony, tell us about because you've been dealing
Harmony.
with it,
a little bit, right? Yeah.
So I've been in the online sphere for, I guess, about 1.5 years now, really. I think I started growing about 1 year ago. But I mean, and people assume that that's when I started playing games. But like, it's like, I don't know. I've been doing it a very long time. I've been playing 4X and RPGs since I was about 18. With, I guess I'll give away my age. I'm 35 now. So, I mean, I've been in it for quite a while. And I do definitely get people who are like, who is this? Why does she, why is she acting like she knows things? I'm like, I think I have a good grasp on quite a lot of stuff. I don't know. It's actually hard to like talk about myself this way because I don't really know quite well how I'm perceived by other people. I just kind of come in and talk about things that I think are interesting, and I like to say things that I think are true. And I get some pushback sometimes, but like for every person that's been like not so nice to me about this, like lots more people have been very cool with me or willing to have a discussion, even if they don't agree. So, but I think that there's like this phenomenon where like one hater will just like stand out and you'll remember that person, but you won't remember like the nice things that people say or the people who are willing to have a discussion with you about things you don't agree with. I just think that stuff is more prominent in your mind, but I mean, those people aren't more prominent. Like overall, I think the RPG community has been actually very cool with me. And actually, I'll say I found your stuff, Kelsey. I hadn't seen your stuff before. I found Shadowdark and your stuff through Victor Gorchev. Yeah, he because I was friends with him and he told me like he told me about some experiences he had with you and your Discord, and he's like, yeah, Kelsey's legit. She's like the real deal. You should check this out. And I was like, okay, because I like supporting people who have a good relationship with their fans and with their audience. And so I was I was happy to do that, and I think I bought Shadowdark and the couple curse scrolls that were out then. I think there were 3 of them.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit late coming to Shadowdark. I was a little bit late coming to it. I taught a couple of my friends. We did some dungeons with it. We quite enjoyed it. We had a great time with it. Anyway, real quick, before we go any further, I think we're gonna go ahead and do we want to address super chats now? Because we've had a couple of them on. Okay.
I had a couple gifted subs on my side.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay. All right. So first of all, my ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. Thank you so much. HG has been getting pushback from the crows. Oh my God. Yeah. But I think Dunder and Mike have one of those. Oh, it's the same guy. I just saw that.
Oh. Yeah, he's honestly like this guy. He's so cool. He just comes in and just supports everybody. So, nothing but positivity. Quite funny on Twitter. So
I like that his username is like a post-rock band.
Struck by lightning.
Like it looks like a kind of band T-shirt that my older cousin would be walking around wearing. Like it's just like that one of those big, really wordy band names. I don't know. I like seeing it every time I see it.
Right.
I saw a comment earlier. It said, when is Mike or Harmony gonna run a Bronstein for Kelsey? I think that's up to her schedule.
When?
Yeah, that's up to your schedule.
I've only ever
I am down.
I've only ever run one.
Just don't ally yourself with Harmony or Dunder. They will.
I've heard of Harmony's viciousness in these games. No.
Mike is lying. I am trustworthy to the end.
Dunder's kill count is higher.
Yeah. I've literally never killed anybody in these games.
I feel like this is Mike politicking and Mike is actually the scary dude and he's trying to turn me against everyone else. Yeah.
That's 100% true. Anyway,
Mike's character killed mine while I was asleep in the last one. So
just to address chat real quickly, because we have like 5 people on stage and we have a lot of people in chat spread out over like 3 different streams here. We will make time for super chats, but they will probably be a little bit later and all clumped together. So if we don't address your super chat right away and that bothers you, please do not send it. So just want to put that out there. Oh no, you're good. You're good. Anyway, wait.
I was gonna get in there with if for Kelsey, if you didn't come in during 5th Ed. You've been playing RPGs and stuff before. What was your first RPG, and like what was the first game that you either sat down and played at or DM'd for?
It was 2nd edition AD&D on the school bus with my friends.
On the bus.
I started on 2nd Ed in 9th grade. That was the same thing. It was a youth group kids. It was same vibe.
And we didn't know what we were doing. That was one thing. We did not know. But
I didn't know what I was doing. My DM knew what he was doing because he learned the game from there was this dad in the neighborhood who ran an open table at the public library. And so my friend went there, learned the game, bought the books, and then invited us all over. It was
you need an adult to like. We ended up getting an adult.
You need someone literate to explain the rules to you.
Yes, exactly. The adult that helped me is really where any of my street cred would ever come from, because he he was a weekly player in Gary Gygax's home game. So and
Wow.
he did a lot of work with Bob Bledsaw at Judges Guild. So he was writing like licensed material. He was running us through the Wilderlands. We played in the City State of the Invincible Overlord. And to
City
this day,
State is my favorite module of all time. I love that. I love that.
So how about
It's
those
amazing.
bona fides people that think these gals are just showing up lately, huh?
Bonafide.
Who's got that report card, huh?
I didn't realize that it was somewhat of a. I only now know in hindsight that was actually really special and cool, and it was purely through luck of geography because I grew up in southern Wisconsin, and it was like 45 minutes from TSR headquarters, and that's the only reason I had access to these kind of people. So it was very fortunate. Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I had no idea. I mean, I knew you'd been playing for a while. You had to have been. You can't like turn out something like Shadowdark and the Cursed Scrolls without having some background. And I know you've released a lot of stuff on like DM's Guild too. I'll be honest, I haven't read that stuff. But
that's okay. You can skip that.
It's like
that part, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, it's very obvious that the background's there. But I had no idea. That's awesome. Do you remember what your first character was on the school bus?
Yes, she was. I had somehow procured like this old copy of Dungeon Magazine, and it was during the time that Dark Sun was being released, so they had like some of the character options from Dark Sun in it. And I don't know why, but it was like a winged elf, which I don't know where that fits into the Dark Sun cosmos, but I believe it was from a supplement for Dark Sun. Like they were world building or something. And so I played a winged elf. And that's all I remember. She had a sword. She was cool.
She had everything she needs. She got wings and a sword.
I think they were called Avariel or something. But yeah. What was your all's first characters? Do you remember?
I remember mine.
I was a wizard, and I only had ventriloquism. It was the only spell I knew. And so I described my character as having a very long beard under which he hid many knives. And I would wait for my buddy Brian to beat down the monsters, and then I would throw a knife and try and get the kill steals at the last minute. Highlight of his career was we were playing a TSR module with from the basic series, like the same series as Keep on the Borderlands, but not Keep on the Borderlands. And there was like an abducted princess dungeon, and there's the evil wizard, and the princess is tied to the chair, and all my friends are under a web spell, and I had come in from a different door, like we kind of tried to pinch her in, and I knew that I had 3 hit points, and I was all alone, and I cut the ropes containing the princess, and then I ran away. I let her have the knife, and I booked it.
You're like, here.
Yeah. I was
protect yourself.
Basically like fortune favors the bold, save yourself, and got the hell out of there.
Nice.
I don't remember much about the first campaign I was in. I know I was 18, and I played the most generic girl character. I was a pretty blonde half-elf priestess.
Yep.
Love
it though. You got to do that at least once in your life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
of course.
Can't say
all
I
of you
have.
My first character was a mobile infantry character named Rodriguez. My brother made a Starship Troopers RPG for me because I was obsessed with the movie. And my sister and I just sat around killing bugs for hours during summer vacation. There was like no role play. It was like, 7 bugs come out of a hole. You gotta nuke them. And that's what we did. It was awesome. Rodriguez did not make it off of Planet P. Just want to make that clear.
Oh, normal, right? No, I don't know.
Pretty typical.
That was the first R-rated movie I ever saw with my best D&D friend in like 4th grade, and our parents did not know what they were taking us to. They were like, "Go have fun, kid." Dropped us off at the theater. Oh. I was never the same after. Never the same.
Awesome movie.
I'm jealous. I wasn't allowed to watch it.
I wouldn't have been. It was a total mistake.
Have you seen it yet, Harmony?
Have you seen it since?
Yes, but I was not in the greatest state to watch it. I was, if I remember right, I saw it when I was like 22 the morning after a party, and I was a bit hungover because I was in college. So
yeah, you don't want to watch that one with any kind of vague nausea whatsoever.
I need to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Just the ropes of green snot flying everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. Gosh, we have so many questions about the Western Reaches, though. I'd like to bring it back to that.
Now, hold on.
But Dunder, we haven't.
Dunder has not given his character.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is important.
Okay, so I was Dungeons and Dragons was kind of taboo in my household growing up because everything was, I was going to go worship Satan if I played it. So, but I did play the West End Games D6 Star Wars role-playing game. And I was in Spanish class in high school. I was reading Don Quixote, and there was an archetype for a quixotic Jedi. So I had this just old guy who thought he was a Jedi. He had a rapier. He thought he had force powers, but he didn't. And I'm sure it was super irritating for everyone else to play with him, but I had a blast.
This reveals so much about you.
You already knew that, Night Danger. Whatever it revealed, you already knew. Maybe I'm subversive. I don't know if that's what that's called.
Right. So I do want to get to the Western. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
What's up? Okay, I do want to get to.
We just keep interrupting each other.
That's it's fine. That's.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh my god! All right.
The Western Reaches Kickstarter, over $2 million raised.
That's crazy.
That's like 800 billion Canadian dollars. So.
Oh. Wow.
Kelsey, I have a question about this. What are you?
That's I don't know. I don't know how this happened.
Are you a OSR? Are you a something else? You're something else.
Oh, am I a something? Am I an OSR or a 5e?
Is there a bucket that you put your stuff in? Like if you talk about your kind of gaming.
Maybe I'm a minimalist, old school. I don't want to say like revivalist, but I would say respecter, old school respecter. There we go. Let's make another R for that acronym.
Right on.
I really respect the style, but I also like to use minimalism and try to use forward thinking design to make gameplay easier. I that's one of my joys. So maybe that's what I would be called then.
Right. And as far as like story driven versus sandbox, what side do you come down on?
I'm more of like a sandbox. I'm less of a story driven. I want the players to have full autonomy and for them to more guide the direction of the campaign. Definitely.
Yeah. So when you come up with a setting product like what you've got on Kickstarter right now, which if you guys have not already checked this out on Kickstarter, please just pause the video, go check it out. You can come back. You can put us on double speed and catch up in no time.
Just double checked it actually, and it is at. I just opened up the tab. It is at 2.9 million Canadian dollars, which is to say it's only $80,000 short of being 3 million Canadian dollars.
Canadian, right on.
Which is so and because they're both called dollars, you can say I had a $3 million Kickstarter, and no one needs to know. No one needs to know.
That's right.
Australian also use dollars too, so we can get the exchange rate going.
But their dollars are worth more than mine.
Is because I think a lot of times how you like to play will impact the kind of thing you design. How does your sandbox bench show up in the Western Reaches? Like how? Yeah. What design choices do you make because of that?
Right. And I so agree with you too. I think like when I was writing for 5e, I would be writing more like linear or story driven stuff because that's kind of what the rules supported and almost required.
Oh yeah. That's what they start off with in the player's handbook, right?
Exactly. And so that was with the Western Reaches, what I'm essentially presenting is a large keyed hex map, really first and foremost, and there's supporting material in it, like character classes that are specific to certain regions, explanations of the gods and like character races or ancestries or whatever people want to call them. I don't know. And then how those relate to the setting itself, and just trying to give specific examples of how to play a character from that setting. And so, but the vast majority of it is an open hex crawl where there's like around 250 keyed hexes, and it like the whole area of it is around like the geographical size of Nevada. So it's like semi big, and the idea is that hopefully, characters will get into their own trouble as quickly as possible. And I think what comes along with that is that you can't really over design each site of point of interest because there's simply not room to do that. So you try to make each one have enough kinetic energy that there's a reason for the characters to go there and then engage with it, and something for the game master to build off of. And that's really the bulk of what's in this setting, is stuff like that.
Yeah. Right on.
I think designing for a sandbox is actually quite difficult because you don't know what the players are going to do. And that's why it's very hard to prep campaigns when like you're kind of letting the players do all sorts of different things. And I've been experimenting with different methods of low prep and trying to just, maybe prep things on the fly a little bit when they get there. That's why I think there are certain types of modules that actually work very well for this. And one specific example that I'm going to go back to that I really liked, and I'm not just saying this because I'm friends with them, but Black Lodge Games, they're the Shucked Oyster.
Yes.
That specific module was so good for a sandbox because it was just like a construct that can be in the campaign. And it's not like the whole campaign needs to be built around it, but it's going to be different. And he has charts and he has like ways to make this different every time the players return to it. And I think that specific type of module where it's just about a construct or something works so well in these sandbox campaigns, which it seems like Shadowdark is really built to support. One reason I'm kind of attracted to it, actually. I really like it. I'm not sure if I'm going to run it for my main game, but my players, the ones that have played it, they love it. So
awesome. And I agree so much. I think the Shucked Oyster is just, those guys are such talented writers. It's really, really amazingly written. And I was looking through it and I was like, gosh, they're really good at design and intentional design. And I haven't seen many supplements like that, where it's a drop-in location that has such an evolving nature to it. And it's like, it almost demands that the characters engage with it. And then once they do, they almost can't stop because it's so interesting.
It's spider webs in every direction.
Yes. Like why I would love more things like the precedent that they set with writing that, because we see a lot of adventures and we see character options, but a thing like what they wrote there is rare, and it's really cool.
So they're actually coming out with a sequel for it. They streamed. They announced it on Wednesday. They're extending into the goth lands of Mungo Borloff and his vampire wives, which it looks like it's going to be great. I was actually so today, to kind of get into the headspace for this conversation, I was listening to one of your streams, which you stream like not every day, but like very regularly.
A lot recently.
It looks looks like I couldn't do it. But some in your video, your stream on West Marches games and explaining kind of what you're going for with the West Marches game, I thought it was interesting. You pointed out specifically that town needs to be very stable. It needs to be relative, like shenanigans to a minimum, and that interesting stuff. And that was the big thing with the original West Marches blog post, is that nothing interesting ever happens in town because you're trying to get the players to go out. And I think that's probably why I've always bounced off West Marches as a style, is because like all the coolest stuff happens in town. And I think the Shucked Oysters are like a great like inverse approach to that with just, so I was curious, how much experience would you say you had with 5th Ed and with Shadowdark doing urban stuff, like doing things in cities or in towns? Like where's the Thieves Guild antics, and how would you go about executing that as opposed to hex crawling and dungeon crawling?
Yeah, it's that I agree with you that is something that I feel is a little bit strict about the West Marches style as put forth by the blog Ars Ludi, and that's Ben. I always almost say the wrong Ben. It's Ben Robbins. I almost always say like Ben something, and I get it wrong, but it's Ben Robbins. And I think that there's more space for intrigue in town than having it be completely boring. I think that the game master needs to be aware that it might need to be constrained at times, because ideally, yes, you'll be pushing the characters out, but out exploring. But I sometimes wonder too if the reason why Ben recommended that was because he was actually running this experiment during 3rd edition, where treasure was no longer the driving force for experience points. It was like that was sort of lost, and I think that if treasure had been like maybe a more linked to character progression and maybe something that the characters wanted to pursue more, I almost wonder if he would have run into so many problems with them getting stuck in town, because I feel like they would have had stronger motivation to leave just naturally by the way that the game was designed. And so I wonder about that, but I also do think like a light touch of shenanigans in town, especially between outings, is fine and even should be encouraged. But then you got to find ways to limit it, whether it's because they only have so much downtime before they know something's going to happen that they need to go out and address. Maybe time constraints could help with that.
Yeah, I think time is the limiting factor for sure, because like if a player is really passionate about something, I want to let them pursue that, but with that is a hefty price tag of like 2 weeks, maybe a month. And at that point, it's like, what's the cost benefit analysis? Do you want to play a new character during that time? You're not going to see this guy until June. And so I think that might limit some of the shenanigans. They're like, well, maybe I don't want that, and then they're like, well, maybe I do. And then you get to see different kinds of PCs in the milieu.
Yeah.
And I think you get that with the function of time with it in City State of the Invincible Overlord, the Judges Guild module, where they have you actually in 10-minute dungeon turns going down the streets, and each street has its own potential for random encounter tables, and each shop has rumors that link to other shops. And so you really are just crawling through the city the way you would a dungeon, and it is very closely tied to the times of your 10-minute turns. Every other turn you check for a counter. Like, it's oh goodness. Every time I open my mouth, R-Dubs is going to be there in the chat saying a boot.
Yep.
He's one of the living Earth guys, and R-Dubs is my number one guy.
I think he was complaining that there was a bug earlier because there was a Canadian on his screen. So unfortunately, that's a feature. So there's not much you can do about that.
I'm like a fungus. Once I'm in, it's very difficult to get me out. I'm here forever.
You were mentioning using downtime as a resource. Well, I have good news for you. We are the calendar people, so we know all about this. This is kind of, I think, something that comes up quite often here. Is we're like, I have to know, do you make any recommendations for timekeeping in the Western Reaches? I know Shadowdark, the base book, I don't think mentioned anything about it. I don't quite remember.
Right.
It's possible.
It didn't really. Yeah.
But do you make any recommendations for it there? And how do you do timekeeping in your personal games?
Yeah, well, I do in the Western Reaches book. I do lay out the case for why you may want to use like conventional time or fixed time versus real time. And I think that real time. I've always thought real time was a fascinating element, and it's obviously it exists to a small degree in Shadowdark, being that torches last a certain amount of real time, but I make actual recommendations about how to use real time in a broader campaign structure. And I have done things like that, not probably to the degree that you all have done, but I have run like limited sessions where we were trying to track in real time, and I've done, it's interesting because I've done a mixture of the various elements of a West Marches style game, but never all at once. So I've like done the passive scheduling things. I've done, using downtime more as a resource. I have at times done real time elements in my games, but never all at once. So try to construct what I believe to be a good presentation of those ideas for Shadowdark specifically in the book. And I have you guys to thank for your videos too, and all of your writings on these topics and the writings in general of this corner of the hobby. I mean, it's you guys really bring up a lot of excellent considerations that are, especially like corner cases, or how do I handle like one of the biggest questions I'm sure you guys hear is like, well, what if like I do 7 days worth of stuff in one game session? Then what? And it's,
Right.
There's an explanation for what to do, and you guys have done a great job illuminating the answers to those questions. And so I certainly owe you guys a debt of intellectual knowledge about anything I say on that front.
Well, there are some
much.
questions in the comments. Let me see. Scrolling up, there's a guy, Cabazorro, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, asks, hey, Kelsey, quick question. How many rooms out of a dungeon do you put treasure in? 1 in 3, 1 in 5, or how many? And I'll throw it to the whole panel. We don't always just have to put Kelsey on the spot for these. Treasure in your dungeons. What do you guys think? We can start with Kelsey.
Yeah. Oh, well, for me, I guess it depends on the nature of the dungeon. I try to aim for maybe a quarter of the rooms having some form of meaningful treasure in them. But, certainly not every room. Less than half for sure. Usually far less than half. So.
Yeah, I roll for it.
Yeah,
I often roll for it. I think that if there's going to be a leader that was generated through my charts in some way, I'll give them something. And the players may or may not detect magic on it to find out if it is magical. But as far as treasure, it's probably about 30% of the rooms.
You just roll a d6 and roll a die for every room or space not already allocated. A roll of 1 or 2 indicates that there is some monster there, and then going back down, step 2, roll again for every room and space. A roll of 1 to 3 in those rooms and spaces with monsters in them indicates some form of treasure, and a roll of 1 in a room or space which is unoccupied indicates there's some form of treasure. It's right there. You just go right.
You're just RN the FM like your name is Crafty Matt.
Even when I'm running AD&D or BX, I always just use the treasure distributions from OD&D because it's fast and easy.
Cool. All right. Our next question comes from Intanius. Oh, I'm sorry, Harmony. I just talked right over you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that's a pretty good way to do it, actually. Yeah, and you can go on.
Okay. Do not let me do that, guys. I'm rusty at this. I don't know what I'm doing. Remember, I've just been doing whatever I feel like it. I haven't had anybody watching me. I haven't
no camera in your face.
No, I've just been hanging out with my family and connecting with humans and relaxing. Intanius Vertim asks, can you ask Kelsey how she intends to implement Bronstein-esque play through browser-esque essays after running her own, or formulated rules from Scuddy's experience?
Oh,
that was a question.
Yeah, well, I mean, like full disclosure, I'm not going so far in the Western Reaches as to start to suggest or try to explain Braunstein style play, since I'm not very experienced with it, hardly at all. And I still want to run them. In fact, I'm planning to try to run one at an upcoming convention, and so that's something I would love to ask you guys all about, because I've played diplomacy. I have met Dave Wesley. I've talked to people who've played in Dave Wesley's games and asked them a million questions. But, until you run one or participate in one, I'm sure that there's stuff that you just don't anticipate or know. And so I would love to run a Bronstein using Shadowdark as its maybe if a resolution system was needed or mass combat was needed. I would probably bring in Alchemic Raker's Hell March to resolve those things. Yeah. It's very, very cool. But I've never really run one myself. So if you guys were gonna, this is my conundrum. I have a 3-hour session with around 5 or 6 players where I want to try to run a Bronstein, and I would love to hear if you guys think that's even possible. Like, is 5 factions the right amount? Do there need to be more? Is 3 hours too short? Like, that's a big question. But
there's a big topic here. I think that 3 hours is short. You're gonna find that, like, I don't know. I always plan. I was like, I plan for 4 hours and it's 5.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
is it possible? Yes. You're going to be, pushing interactions between the players. Do you have a premise yet? Do you have the
Not
factions
really. I don't. I was waiting. I mean, I guess I was assuming that we were going to have some kind of political intrigue taking place in a location that all the characters are. So I was assuming it was going to be some kind of diplomatic representative of each, maybe of the major 5 city-states in the Western Reaches,
Awesome.
for instance. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So they all need to want something, and anytime you can, you want them to want the same thing. So that way there's competition, and only one person can have it. There's, I think diplomacy has like if you agree to not attack me, we can both win kind of thing. Bronstein's, I would prefer a game. If I was in a Bronstein, I would not want it to be like, oh, we all win and we're all best friends.
He's the one who is not trustworthy. I'm telling you.
What?
Hold a sword on me. Moving vehicle.
Okay, it's been a while. I need a refresher. I remember in the last Bronstein I was riding in a car with Dundermoose, Scudder Mike, and R-Dubs, who was the driver. This is in-game, guys. This isn't a real-life situation. Which one of you killed the driver?
The driver made a choice that led to his untimely demise.
No. Which one of you killed the driver when we were under fire and nobody else knew how to drive?
All right. So, Kelsey, let me just give you some background on this first. Due to mishandling by the DM and juggling a bunch of Discord channels, it got slipped out that R-Dubs was planning to run Harmony over on site if she was by herself when he picked this up for this expedition. So there was some metagaming. I had some player knowledge that my character might not have had, but the situations he kept getting painted into made him a psychopath anyway. So I get there. We're in this vehicle. Macho Mandolf is there just holding his groceries like a yokel, like, what's going on? And then out of this bush, a bunch of gangsters jump out with some machine guns. We're playing Traveler, 1977 Traveler. And I just stuck my gun in his ear and I said, get out. I was going to throw him his breathing apparatus and I was going to drive us away because I knew I couldn't trust him.
And that wasn't the plan, though.
When I said get out, he stomped on the gas. And I pulled the trigger and he died. And I turned around to explain myself to Scudder Mike and Harmony Ginger. And what did Scudder do but pull his sword out and go, you murderer, and charge me. And so what could I do? I shot him.
I was in the best position of not knowing how to drive and being in the back of a car where everyone was shooting at us and all my teammates were killing each other. And I'm like, what do I even do now? And so I was apparently just sitting there trying to start the car on my own, not knowing how, when Macho Mandolf just came up and shot me in the head. So that was great.
Yeah, he dropped his groceries, pulled out a laser gun, and right through the cockpit.
Yeah,
total vengeance back and forth.
So let's kind of get back to the original topic, guys. If you're running Shadowdark and a Bronstein, so for what I did was there are 2 generally accepted ways of running mass combat. Alchemic Raker, he has the Hell March, which super easy, just roll a bunch of d6s, resolve it that way. There's also the scaling where you do like 10-to-1 for every 1 miniature on the board there that stands for 10 men, and you roll a lot less dice. You have you multiply the damage. That's what I did for the Shadowdark Bronstein, because combat's just so easy with your system anyway. It's like you're adding +2 or 3. It's not like these crazy modifiers, and so you can resolve the damage really quickly. And my wife, I think she destroyed an army of 200 men, and I think the combat took 6 minutes. So
whoa, nice.
Yeah,
that's
my
crazy.
advice for that going back to that, my advice for running a Bronstein with your friends, say you have 6 of them in like 3 hours, would be, first of all, they don't have time to like develop for themselves really what their character or faction is. You should have like characters developed for them already. They don't really need to have like a name or a sex or anything. The players can figure that out. But you need, so I would recommend checking out Ben Robbins' Bronstein write up, because I believe he released all of the handouts from like the 2008 Bronstein. Those are actually really good to reference, but they should each have a write up of like maybe a couple paragraphs of like, this is what my character is, this is what their goal is, and these are things the character knows. That needs to be for every character, and the goal should not be the same. Like they should have different win conditions basically. And it might be that more than one of them reach that. There doesn't necessarily need to be one winner or anything, but they should all have different win conditions, and they should all have secret information that only they know that they can act on. I would definitely recommend specific characters and handouts for every player. Also, I don't know how your friend group is, but something I have noticed when trying to run Bronstein type games with my group is that I cannot play. I cannot play in this stuff because I am the Bronstein girl in my friend group, and it is worth so much clout to kill me that that's the first thing that happens no matter what we play. It's like, all right, how do we kill Harmony? Every time.
We can't let her win. That's what they're saying. We can't let her win.
So, I mean, I would recommend, I don't know if your group treats you that way. Maybe they do, maybe not. But, it may be hard for you to play in it.
We'll see. Maybe, yeah. I'll probably just try to stay. You know what's funny too? And this is a wrench I didn't mention in the plan. I actually have to run it for a con game. So I don't know the players. I don't know their nature. Yeah. And I'm like, is it because I was going to play test it with some friends. And I do know their manners, but it might be a little ambitious for me to try this, but I think you got it. I am ambitious. I want to try it.
So each of the players will, sorry, not Ginger, you go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, if time and if it's people you don't know and you time is a variable, how I would do that is very similar to how I ran my last Braunstein for my guys, which is you have to be kind of a jerk about turn time, like progression. I don't know if you've ever played diplomacy. There's always someone who wants like, oh no, just 2 more minutes for the negotiation phases between turns. You got to be a real jerk about it, and that. But how I ran it when I ran it, the scenario is very simple. There's this guy, he's gotten his hands on a dead alien, and he's got it in the back of his car, and he's driving from Texas to California. And each person in the Braunstein is a faction that is interested in getting their hands on this dead alien. We've got the cartel, we've got a Vatican investigator, we have a wealthy Scientologist, and they all have their own little goals and whatever. But the big thing is every turn I would grab each player. They would go and negotiate and talk to each other and scheme. And each turn was a 10-minute timer. So they have like 5 to 6 minutes to just quickly like, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Chat it out. They come to, and then as soon as a person says, okay, I've got all the negotiating that I've done that I need, I would pull them aside, ask them what they're doing, jot down in shorthand on an index card what they're doing, and quickly look over my notes once everybody has said that to me. Look over my notes, think, okay, where do these actions overlap? Where do they produce conflicts? Where do I need to adjudicate how that balances? I then pull each one of them back for another like 30 seconds of here's what you tried to do. Here's how that turned out. This is the new information you have to act on for the next turn. And so you get about 15 to 20 minutes per turn. And so if you're aggressive about it, you can get like 7 or 8 rounds in a 2-hour game, but you got to just really you got to be really fast. And this is where the dice really come into it. How did it is each of them had 5. Are you familiar with? Have you ever read Blades in the Dark by John Harper?
Yes, it's been a while though. But
so the basic mechanic is you have a number of d6s, you roll it, and you're just looking for the highest result. So if the highest result is a 6, then it's a success. If it's a 4 or a 5, it's a partial success or success with complication. And if it's the highest result is a 1 to 3, it fails. So I gave each player 4 to 5 dice with some exceptions and caveats. And when they tell me what they're doing, they tell me how many of those dice they're allotting to each thing. So it might be I'm sending a PI into Fort Worth to ask around about this guy. That's 2 dice. And they give me their dice. And then as they're telling these things to me, I have a little mini DM screen and I'm rolling the dice for their actions as they're describing them to me and noting whether they succeeded, failed, or partially succeeded. So that by the time it comes to look over the results of all their actions, I already know what succeeded, what didn't succeed, and when I'm looking at overlaps, it flows like that. I would run the scenario at least twice before the con. Like I would think up your scenario and run it twice, ideally with different groups of people, so that when you get to the con, you have a loose idea of who all the major players are, and you can kind of anticipate what they might do.
Right. Yeah. And I need to play test that one a bit.
Yeah. I cannot recommend enough I cannot recommend enough just like D6s as like fast conflict resolution, because it's very abstract. So like my one player, he was a billionaire Scientologist, and so the action he said is, well, I know that the guy I'm looking for is driving around in this vehicle, and I know that other people are trying to find him, so I'm going to buy a whole bunch of those cars and have people drive around Texas in that same model of car to try and throw people off the trail. And
I love it. Yeah.
And see, they can describe basically anything, and then they just tell you how much of their resources, whether that's money, political clout, like it's abstracted enough that it can be really flexible, and so it doesn't feel like mechanically nitpicky, and you don't waste a lot of time bean counting all the different modifiers and, well, I have the high ground. And so, yeah, it's very free Krieg spiel when you run it like that. But it's a lot of fun. It works really, really good, and if you do it just right, you'll get at least one person right to the brink of rage quitting, and then they'll still say they had a good time.
Everyone will be like, why did I do this? No, it'll ruin friendships.
One more recommendation on my end. I apologize. I'm sorry, Dunder.
Oh, no, go ahead.
But one more recommendation. Don't try to balance anything. Give some people more powerful roles than others. And if you can with your friend group, I recommend when you run it for friends, put your best players, your strongest players, your most devious people in the worst roles. Give them the least power. That's what I recommend. I think it works best when you do that.
Good stuff.
But deliberately unbalance it as much as possible.
Deliberately, that makes sense. Yeah, because that was one thing where I was like, if you're setting this up, I mean, it isn't meant to be fair across the board, you know, and that makes a lot of sense. And I have a burning question if I can. I don't want to trample on what Dunder was gonna ask, but I know Night Danger was saying that he uses a turn structure. Do you guys all use turn structures when you run these, or do you sometimes? I know in Godstein you had to. I mean, people were like submitting orders essentially, but I guess that's my question. Do you guys always use a turn structure, or do you just like let people go do stuff and then come back to you when they have an update?
I use the ones that I've run. Yeah, I use turns, but we've played in a much more loose. The Traveler one was a lot more loose. Like some of the turns orders hadn't even been delivered yet whenever things were being resolved. I think that turns are, for my brain, turns are the best because I know where everybody is in the action at that time. I think to add on to that, something that really helps is having a lot of different space. If you're at a con, make sure that there's like room for people to go off and just chat by themselves. Narratively speaking, maybe they have like sending stones and they're sending messages across long distances, but whenever whenever the players can see two people go off by themselves and, you know, those people are chatting and then they're like looking at the other group and then they go back to it, that gets everyone's wheels spinning. Like, what is happening? And hopefully, you know, you've got a secret alliance with somebody who's in that conversation and you can find out what's being said, but leaving this time while you're resolving with someone else for the players to speak freely with each other is, I think, essential to their investment.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually, something that R-Dubs just pointed out in the chat is to toss out travel times and geographic restrictions, which is to say, like, don't try and track. Well, he's on Fifth Avenue, so there's just no way that he could be over on Dave Street in time for that. I played in a Bronstein online using Discord, so instead of extra rooms, they just had like 15 voice channels, and so you could bounce around between them, and we were using Boot Hill. That one didn't have really... It sort of had a turn structure. The guy running it, he's like, okay, what are you going to be doing? You need to get that in by this time. But while that's happening, people could go off and do other stuff. And the nice thing about Boot Hill was that the combat, you can play it out between two people, like PvP, with no GM very, very easily. And so the GM would say, okay, I've got everyone's orders in. I know what's happening next. And we'd say, actually, no, you don't. 3 men have been shot. So the poor Crom, he was just scrambling to stay on top of everything that was happening. But
if other players witness it did happen.
The biggest
thing
that's
that's
the thing, is that if other players witnessed it, then it did happen. And the biggest thing that I think made a turnless, like more loosey-goosey Bronstein work was a combat that works for without the referee, like refereeless PvP combat. And then also the geography of where the scenario is taking place, it was all centered around a single town, like a gold rush town in Arizona, because it's a Western, right? And so everything is fairly geographically constrained. And so all the events of the Bronstein we played for like 5 hours or something like that, and a lot happened. But canonically, we were basically using like something effectively of a 1-to-1 time of 1 minute equals 1 minute, because the entire scenario, the events that happened in game took a course over basically a single day or like a single evening. And so you can do that. And this is one of the reasons I like urban games and I like city games, is you can have everything really close, where it's like everything's within walking distance, and you don't have to do the accounting of like 3 weeks of travel across the open steppe. As much as I love a good horse riding montage, it's nice to have everybody close together, like a Guy Ritchie movie.
Let's Dundermoose has been trying to get in here for a hot minute.
Oh, that's all right. No, seriously, I'm like the last person that should be talking here, because I have not run one yet.
But you played in one.
What I have done, I've played in a bunch of them, and I went like for a whole year where whenever somebody ran one, I got them on my show and we did a post-mortem and after action report. So if there's other people watching this and you feel like Kelsey and you're like, I want to run one of these soon, but what's the fastest way that I can skill up? There's a few things. First, I would say you should watch Secrets of Blackmoor. It's a documentary, and the parts where Wesley talks about when he ran Bronstein, eye-opening, and really kind of set us. That's the reason we're talking about this stuff today. So I would recommend watching that. Number 2, I'd binge my channel. I'd binge This Is Dundermoose, especially the Bronstein episodes. Number 3, if you go to Drive-Thru RPG, there is, I'll put it in the chat. There is a book called Brozer, the Battle for Brozer Isle or something like that. Brozer, and
Island of War and Winter.
Yeah, it's free. You can download it for free, or if you go on Amazon, you can purchase it at cost. And it has a scenario set up, but the really cool thing about it is it's got a series of essays by people who've been trying Bronstein-like games and what they did and how it worked. Yeah, so I would recommend those. But I also don't want you to overthink it, because there's, like they said, don't worry about, because when you're playing diplomacy, you don't worry about how somebody in, Switzerland can talk to somebody in France and all that, right? Everyone just goes into a room and talks. So yeah, that one, don't overthink it. I had a buddy, my next actual This is Thunder Moose episode, we're going to have Robert the Heel Stevens on. He ran a Bronstein-like event where he just threw the monster manual on the table and said, everybody pick a faction. And, in the AD&D first edition one, it tells you how many that you encounter in the wild. So when you're rolling up your troops, they would just roll it right there. And then like, okay, you're the bugbears. You have 30 of them, something like that. And then go. And those guys, they made that poor guy play all night. They kept playing till the sun came up. So I don't know how that goes for you for wanting to do it in 3 hours, but
I know that's a restriction of mine.
Fragile. You don't need to overthink it. It's just fun. The things you need to know is the DM always feels like a failure. Happened the first time to Wesley. Happened. I've seen it happen several times where the DM was like, I lost control. I got so far behind, and the players went nuts and they loved it. Your main job as the DM is to herd them into each other. Everybody's going to want to turtle up and try to just farm resources in their own area. You got to make it small enough that they're tripping over each other, and you got to keep herding them towards each other and just like pushing for that conflict. Again, This is just stuff I've observed from people who know what they're talking about. I haven't done it yet. I want to, but I haven't done it yet.
That's good advice. So I might turn my lights on because it's getting dark for me, but I can hear you guys. Is that okay if I do that just really quick? But
no,
sorry, I should have planned.
No. Oh, great. Now there goes the viewership. They just
held
on us. Well, all right.
Sorry, but that's really good advice, Thunder, though. But that is that. I was gonna ask if you guys. Well, I don't want to derail because I have so many questions. I could ask you guys these questions.
We're way off the rails. Let's just sandbox it. Go where you want, sister.
Just like a Bronstein, just roll with it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask if you guys each have like your personal best advice for how to prevent players from turtling up, because that's one of the things I'm most a little bit like worried is gonna happen, and how am I gonna unstick them? Like do you make some form of penalty for not taking an action?
Tell them that they're going to be judged afterwards. Tell them that you can have everyone vote and see who won, or you can tell them like, if you played the bugbears, here's what you were supposed to do. Did you do it?
There's always going to be a turtling player. Like, no matter how much you push, like this is a PvP event, there's going to be a turtling player. I'm not trying to be mean, but you kind of have to ignore them and let the narrative focus on the people who are driving action, because the people who are driving action, people want to glom onto that and, become a part of what's happening there. And there's not always like a clear winner with like a point system, but usually it's those people who are driving action and you're like, okay, I think that guy won because he just was pushing so much and everybody was so excited to be a part of what he was doing. I think he won. That could be.
So I think
go ahead.
You go first.
Okay. I would say to prevent turtling, this is why I like to, instead of receiving orders via message or via like them submitting like written orders, I like for them to just tell me what they're doing and I take shorthand. I like doing that specifically because then I can kind of be the shoulder devil a little bit, and I can be like, especially it's like, oh, okay, so you tried to send a PI to look around for this alien, and would you look at that? He turned up dead. I bet you that Dave's responsible for that. And are you going to take that? Like, are you going to let him do that? And you kind of just constantly prod them and say, okay. I always say, instead of just what are you going to do? It's XYZ thing happened because somebody thwarted your plans. What are you going to do about that? How are you going to I almost get hostile with them when I'm talking to them to try to make them mad at each other, because then they'll actually take action against each other. And then it is true. Like if someone really turtles up, they're not playing the game, right? Because you at that point you kind of you can keep bullying them, but the future belongs to those who show up, and that applies extremely so. I think it's just the really big thing. I'm doing a play-by-post Bronstein sort of thing right now with my regular group, and basically every week I'm saying to somebody, so you gonna put up with that? You gonna tolerate that? And just really yeah. I'm a you
them
play
on.
Satan. You play Satan, and
you
you whisper in their ear, "Oh, he's scheming against you." And the nice thing with using the dice, nice thing about using the dice where there's a partial success is, somebody might do something and they want it to be secret, and the partial success, I can say, "You do it," but rumors are going to leak out. And Crom has a similar thing for how he runs Braunsteins. He calls it GOSS, like GOSS, for making sure that periodically covert actions and secret happenings are leaked either out to the public or to specific people. Like he has his own way of doing it, and it really helps if you're just constantly bleeding intel to people. And alternatively, if someone's trying to get intel and they get a bad result, or you think it'd be funny, you can give them false intel and try to get them to do something. So it's a very social game. It's a very, very, very social game.
So there are a couple
Harmony,
ways.
do you remember what you wanted to say before Night Danger started?
Yes, I don't always forget this stuff. But there are a couple things you can do to stop people from turtling. One is what Night Danger said, is some incomplete intel. I recommend using random events for the campaign as well. But also, you got to squish people to each other, but you also want to give them goals that inevitably conflict with other goals. Like there may not only be one winner, but this person and this person will not both win because they both need this thing and only one of them can have it. Right. So you need to give them goals that will inevitably put them in conflict with each other. But also Also, you may tell your players, if you turtle, I'm going to ridicule you on social media.
The age old.
Yeah. Yes. All of my after action reports are just me bullying my players and being like, "Oh, you get graded at superior because you did this." Everyone loves it.
And if a player doesn't respond to being bullied, you can also try to use positive reinforcement of, okay, it'd be really funny. It'd be like, yeah, you could do that, or it'd be funnier if you did this. And I find if you appeal to the sense of humor, sometimes that can get people to be bolder than they normally would. Because at the end of the day, like, especially for like a one-off scenario that's not tied to a larger ongoing campaign, zany hijinks are a big part of the appeal of like being able to say after the fact, like, "Oh, you remember when XYZ happened?" And so just saying, "Yeah, no, listen, that action is okay, but maybe you could spice it up a little bit, and it'd be way funnier if you got away with this."
That's actually good advice. Players do things that
I like that your style is goading a little bit. I like that.
Yeah, same. Real quick, sorry, before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and address a few super chats if nobody minds. First off, Crafty Matt, thank you. He says, "I'll make this simple. If D&D eventually becomes Monty Python, Bronstein is just the movie Clue." I will say my favorite explanation of Bronstein I've ever heard was on some YouTube channel. Gosh, should I say who it was? It was Condor DM. I shouldn't, but he said Bronstein is like Minecraft meets Monopoly. That's my favorite thing. It was like the funniest thing I've ever seen about it. And
it's awesome.
All right. Anyway,
I see it.
Yeah. And thank you, Tag, for the $10. The term referee comes into full swing here. Imagine a referee at a soccer game complaining that no one wants to score a goal. Absurd. Players need to be winning. This shouldn't need to be explained. Yes. However, there is like this instinct a lot of players have to like to turtle because they're afraid to come into conflict with other players. People are
if you think about like standard Dungeons and Dragons, the idea is you are all friends. You're working together. The cleric is going to heal you, right? So it's very hard to break away from that tradition. And like, I think that when you do, and when players are willing to accept the idea, it's like,
I'm huge.
You are huge. I don't know why you are. I think when they're willing to accept that, then you really unlock this whole nother level of role-playing games, and it's just so much fun. And people are still talking about like a session. I don't even know when I ran my game. I think it was in January for the Shadowdark Bronstein. My friends are still giving each other a hard time about who betrayed who. Like,
oh no.
yeah, it's just so much fun.
Well, and I think it's like you can set up expectations where everyone knows the timeless story of a guy who shows up to play D&D and his character motivation involves not joining the party. Like he makes his character, and then it's like, well, but I don't want to travel with you. I'm
Batman.
Or like, oh no, I actually want. And so there's the social contract of you're showing up to play this game, and so you're going to do things that are about what the game is about. You're going to have motivations and take actions that are appropriate to the type of game that we're trying to play here. And this goes back to the very first episode of the Random Table, where I said that RPGs are some like 70% social graces that you can't learn from a manual. Like you just have to not be antisocial and weird. You have to pick up on the cues.
Yes, there are. And it sounds too like, you know, I'm filing all this away as you guys are telling me, and it sounds like a consideration, especially because this is at a con, is people are going to need me to like position the idea of like, this is PvP. You can't win unless you engage. So maybe don't turtle up. I might even like say that from the start because it seems so crucial, you know? Yeah. I think Harmony's muted.
Are you guys seeing
Dunder,
this?
are you going to be okay?
Oh my gosh.
What?
Oops. This here you go, Dunder.
Filtered ID. Thank you for the humongous donation. Dundermost, I rolled a nat 20 on detect facial hair, and your mustache is still missing. Did it fail a saving throw or just rage quit in your face? Either way, I demand answers. All right. We don't have time to get into the saga of the stash. Suffice it to say, I had a full-on luxurious, big mustache. And one day, everybody was strangers kept complimenting me on it. And it weirded me out because I had a lot of headwinds when I grew it. So I shaved the middle part off, and I just had like the corners because I think that's what's next. I don't think anybody's ready for it, but I think that's what's next. And so I committed, I went to it. Nobody liked it. I felt a lot better about myself. And then I told a version of the story that I just told you like 7 times a day at work over and over again. And I just realized I can't do this. A man can only repeat himself so many times. And so, Kara, I did the unthinkable and I shaved off the stash. And then we started watching the Netflix version of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is very quality, I might add. And Uncle Iroh is rocking the exact look I was going for. And I was like, I knew it. But yeah, it's the bald lip. I'm sorry that we had to go through all that for those that haven't been keeping up on the saga of the stash. But Kara, thank you so much for that support. I am stunned. That's more than I've ever made, like, since I had a YouTube channel on this. So thank you.
Whoa, nice.
And one more real quick, sorry. Ardubs, thank you. Ardubs says, please never have a Canadian on your stream again.
I've been watching the chat go by and just watching Ardubs. Every time I start talking, he starts making fun of me, and it's the funniest thing that's happened to me. I'm having a great time. I love whenever I encounter Ardubs in the wild because I know he's just going to make everything about the fact that I'm Canadian.
Right.
There was a question though. I'm sorry, Harmony. Real quick before you get into the next bit. Alchemic Raker said, "Hey, where did your torch mechanic come from in the first place?"
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. You know what's funny? People rarely ask me that. And people ask a lot about how it works or like why it's in the game, but not where it came from. And it originally came from the fact I used to be an English as a second language teacher when one of my various like career permutations back in the day. Yeah. That's right. I meant to ask you about that. Okay, that's so cool. So we have that in common. And as I'm sure you know, Mike, when you're trying to work on speaking fluency, students will often really get in their own head and they will stop talking. They'll think too hard about what it is they're going to say. And so one of the things I learned over time is that if you make timed speaking exercises where it's a really short timer, the students just kind of have no choice but to act. They just have to say stuff. They have to do stuff. And the timer is really influential for that. And I was stuck on Shadowdark working on how to try to make the confluence of like random encounter pressure and resource pressure and all that a little bit easier on the game master to handle, because I was like, they're already tracking the passage of rounds for checking random encounters, checking the passage of rounds for spell durations and other things. And I was like, this is getting to be a lot. And I was like, I wish there was a more hands-off way for the GM to have this, other tracked elements come into play. And then it kind of all came together while I was eating corn on the cob with my family in Wisconsin. I was eating the corn on the cob. The idea, I was like, real time. I was like, real time. This is, it'll force players to act. It doesn't require additional round tracking, checking off, like one turn has gone by. We need to check another checkbox on the torch, like, and this, you need to rest this turn. And it just simplified things. And I suspected it would really drive player action too. I thought, seeing that you have a timer ticking down would sort of get them to stop over analyzing their decisions. And that is exactly how it worked out in playtesting. And I was like, this is the mechanic I want to use for this. And that's kind of where it came from.
This is such a cool origin story for a mechanic. I love that. That is awesome.
It's because of teaching English as a second language.
And corn on the cob. Like, that's an essential part of the story.
Yeah. I remember when it occurred to me, because I was like, I literally sat my corn down and I was like, I need to go write something down. And I was with my family and they're like, are you okay? And I was like, yes. I just went and wrote this idea down, and glad I did. I'm glad I didn't forget it.
Here, Kelsey, we have a super chat you need to respond to.
It needs to make its appearance. It's time. It's time for corn on the cob to be acknowledged for its importance in Shadowdark.
Wow. The dire ear. Brings new meaning to Shuckstein.
Oh wow, all three of us started at once. Dunder, go first.
Oh, I was just punning. I just said it brings new meaning to Shuckstein when you have his dad joke.
I was going to shift gears a little bit with the new question.
Okay, could I throw one comment on before we shift gears? Just that you mentioned the real time pushing player action and driving urgency, like oh shoot, I have to act. That's exactly what the 1-to-1 time for tracking like days in the campaign does, and I found that where players know in session, when we're sitting in session, they say, okay, I want to play this guy next week, and so I need to not futz around and waste a bunch of days in town before I go on the crawl. My brother hates making multiple characters, so he was always trying to avoid time jail. He's always tried to dodge being too far ahead, and it meant that often he would go into the dungeon not fully healed because he's trying, he's like I want to play my guy, and so that means that he wouldn't spend as much time resting in town. And then when you get to factions and downtime and like the big schemes of your major patron players, hey, orders are due at this time, and if you don't get them in at this time, your faction will sit there and do nothing, and everyone else will advance their schemes without you. It that sense of urgency really it applies outwards. It works at every level. So it's cool to hear that it works at the table, because I haven't played with this particular mechanic, so it's cool to hear that the same urgency motivation works with 1 minute to 1 minute as it does with 1 week to 1 week.
So something I like to do, this just kind of tangentially, I guess, related, but something I like to do for the same thing to push urgency is, and I think I'm not sure if I stole this mechanic from Labyrinth Lord or if I just remember it being in Labyrinth Lord because I added it to Labyrinth Lord. But I always like check for like wandering monsters in dungeons. Like I always have a 10-minute timer, and then like every 10 minutes I'll just roll a d6, and like on a 1 there's a random like wandering monster. That's what I've been doing to do that. But anyway,
Mike Merles, who is one of like the lead designer of I think 5th edition, but worked on 4th edition. he just implemented something like that in his own game that he's working on, which is like a real 10-minute timer check. And I'm so I just thought that was fascinating that he found that it works super, super well, you know?
I want to say I stole it from Labyrinth Lord, but I'm not actually sure if it's in Labyrinth Lord or if I read it. And was like, I want to do this every 10 minutes.
There's no way that he just talked about this for the first time like a week ago. And I don't know if I don't know. I'm sure he's read Labyrinth Lord, but I should ask him. But yeah, but it seems like he found it really compelling as well to do that.
Yeah, because like the torches and the and monster checks, it keeps the players moving without the DM having to like harangue them and just be like, all right, guys, what are you doing? You've been here discussing it forever. Yeah. So if they want to sit around and role play about whatever in a dungeon, like, I mean, they can do that, but it's their time, you know. Hope they brought
you just sit there like this, like, I love being like, yeah, you can use your torch time as you want. And they're all like, shh, no, you know. It's pretty fun.
So to shift gears a little bit, Kelsey, I heard you mention that your wife is an artist for Shadowdark. That's right, correct?
She is. Yes, she is.
That's a interesting dynamic there. So like, what's like the biggest challenge that you have, like blending like family and a creative endeavor like that?
Yes, that's such a good question. She is, first of all, I would not be anywhere without her. She does so much. And, you know, like she helps so much with the visual look of everything. And with, honestly, with getting me to do the stuff that I need to do. She's my biggest cheerleader by far. And feeds me when I'm hungry. But it's interesting because she does a lot of the really key art. So she's doing, for example, she's doing the art for all of the covers of a set of special edition books we're releasing for this Kickstarter. And it's funny because I think that I can be more honest with her than with any other artist I work with about things that I may want or need slightly changed. So she's like, you're really mean to me. And I'm like, no, it's just because I can be super honest with you. Like, we need to make this Minotaur's like shoulder muscle bigger or whatever. And she's like, you always find something. But I'm like, the art that she makes is so good. And it's so locked on to the ideas that I pitch her, because she allows me to give her like that level of critique without taking it personally. But I almost don't give that level of feedback to the other artists I work with because I want them to be able to express their vision, of course, but also like, it gets to a point where you can't be like, you should have made his shoe bigger. But with my wife, I'm like, you should have made his shoe at least like. She's
so my wife, she does all of the thumbnail designs and editing for my, and so I was just wondering, like, is there like a go-to compromise you go to, like whenever like the creative visions don't align? Yeah, I think that's
and she's like, I will only tolerate this nonsense if you take me to Home Goods next week. And I'm like, okay, we'll go to Home Goods. We'll go buy.
There's the compromise right there.
Yes. I love this inside look at Kelsey's marriage right now.
Yeah, I'm bribing my wife to draw Minotaurs for us, and I'm like, we will go buy a new piece of furniture next week.
I love this. I'm like, I'm imagining. Oh, what?
Your mom's in the chat?
Yeah, hi, Mom. She's Audrey.
Oh,
Audrey, hi.
Welcome, Audrey.
It's Mike's mom.
Your son's cool.
We were just talking about the mixing of family and creative life, and here we go.
We summoned you.
Yeah, it was a conjuring.
Another mechanic that I enjoy in Shadowdark, and I also enjoy it in my buddy Blackwall's game too, is it really speeds up initiative when you just say whoever wins, and then we just go around in a circle. Like, especially new players, everyone's played, Sorry and Snakes and Ladders, and everyone's used to that. I don't know. Have you noticed this? I've actually played with Blackwell. It's funny. He says people that have played the game before and know how he does things, they'll start negotiating and like doing musical chairs, sitting like they know one guy, he's like specced out for high decks, and so they're like, I want to sit next to him because then I'll get to go next, that kind of thing. Have you noticed anything like that with your games with Shadowdark?
Yeah, yes, that's so funny. I can tell, especially like if I'm running a con game, I can tell right away someone's experience level with the game because they start telling people where they should sit before we start playing. They're like, "Oh, you have the highest decks. You have to sit to the left of the game master." So it is funny. It's part of the strategy. I'm like, I am fine with this. You guys are planning how you want to try to set up your initiative order. I'm cool with that. So, yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I gotta say.
Sorry, so does Shadowdark use individual initiative then?
It does.
Okay.
It's sort of group it. All the monsters act on the game master's turn. So
I suppose if it just starts on one person and then goes around, it's basically like 3-segment. Either it's player then monster, or it's monster then player, or it's player monster player.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's like 50% of the way to side-based initiative.
I use side-based initiative with Shadowdark, but
and you can. That's
it's not like Axe where if you use side-based initiative, you void the warranty and Macros will hunt you down.
Voids the warranty.
Right. Well, it's one of the solo dark rules, so I use it for everything.
Yeah. And it's easier. There are times too when if we have like a really big group, I'll just do that because it's there's no question that the players are gonna win, so it's more fair if you try to do side-based in that case. Like there's then a chance the game master could go first. Yeah. My dog is throwing all my pillows off my couch. Oh, if you hear something, I'm sorry.
Let's say,
and then she ran for it.
My players are they get like into it where they want to coordinate kind of as a unit. And so they're always thinking like in football plays. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go here. And so anything other than side-based initiative breaks down pretty fast for us because they're always thinking at the squad level as opposed to at the individual character level.
Right.
And so I basically, that was the one thing when we were playing Axe is individual initiative really killed us. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah, once you're used to a certain way, it's hard to change. Like I have a hard time going back to individual conventional initiative. I almost can't do it now.
Yeah. I have to say my favorite thing when I tried Shadowdark for the first time, I was running it and I really like your spellcasting system. I haven't played another game with that same spellcasting system that I can remember. I'm not sure. There might be one, but I remember my friend. She was coming into a dungeon. She's like, "Oh, I want to cast mage armor before I go in." I was like, "Roll a d20," and she's like, "For mage armor?" I'm like, "Yeah, roll a d20." She's like, "Oh, okay, wait." I can't crit on mage armor. What do I do with this? I'm like, oh, yes, you can actually. Let's read the spell. And she was like so happy. She's like, wow, I get like extra mage armor. But
Yay.
I've always liked the spells casting system in Shadowdark so much that I've like kind of wanted to like bring it into other games a little bit. But I'm like, man, it's too much. It'll break things. It's either play Shadowdark or bust at this point. But I gotta say that's my favorite thing about it. And I have to know about the spellcasting system. Did you was that something you came up with, or did you kind of borrow the mechanic from somewhere? And for anyone who doesn't know, real quick, what I'm talking about is whenever you cast a spell, you roll a d20, and I believe the target number is like it's like 10 plus the level of the spell, I think. And if you fail it, then the spell fizzles, and you can't cast that spell again that day. If you succeed, then you can keep casting the spell. It's good. And if you crit, well, every single spell in the game, I believe, can crit. Maybe not everyone. I'm not sure if it's everyone or not, but that's what I'm talking about. I enjoy that. Did you? Was that your own creation, or did you come up with that? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it was. I have to give credit. The Dungeon Crawl Classics has something similar.
It does. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I knew it from somewhere, but it was like I don't know. We really got into it with Shadowdark.
And I messed with it a little bit. Like it's the way it works in Shadowdark is actually probably really like simplified versus Dungeon Crawl Classics whole spell casting system. Which theirs is really cool. And I don't remember if theirs is I don't remember how the difficulty class is set. I think you roll to cast, and then whatever result you get past a certain number changes the effect of the spell in Dungeon Crawl Classics. Yeah, and you can have like nuclear stuff happen, which is cool.
Right.
But it was it's also a little bit more, it's well, a lot more gonzo. And I was like, it doesn't really fit the tone of Shadowdark. So I tried to rein it in a little bit and definitely make every spell have a simple critical method instead, like a numerical value that could either be doubled or increased. And then mishaps or problems on a critical failure. So that's, yeah, it's a bastardization of the Dungeon Crawl Classic style.
I was say Tag 1080 in chat also pointed out that rolling to succeed on a spell is right there in Chainmail before D&D was published in the fantasy supplement.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
It has so you have spell complexity and you roll 2d6 and there's 3 potential outcomes. Either the spell fails and so you don't cast it, the spell succeeds, or there's also a partial success, which is that the spell goes off but it's delayed by 1 turn and so it could be potentially interrupted. Yeah, everything's Chainmail all the way down. Everything.
Roll to cast was already invented in Chainmail.
I bounced off. I bounced off Dungeon Crawl Classics. I really wanted to like it, but then the sheer number of tables just, it makes my head swim just thinking.
What did you play with it, Night Danger? Did you do the Sailors on the Starless Sea?
We did, and we had a blast. It's a very fun module. The players had a lot of fun. I just couldn't. Like when I was trying to run it and trying to keep track of everything, and we were working with a PDF instead of a physical print copy of the book, and I just it was beyond my IQ to run.
Unfortunately, the only time I've ever played DCC was in a con game, so. I probably need to actually read it and not just let people tell me how it works.
It's a great system, but it takes a long time to resolve the spells.
I have so much reading material right now. I'm reading Axe right now. So, but anyway.
You got a lot to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, Axe.
Yeah. It's big. Working on it though. Anyway, real quick. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut anyone off, but I think we got a lot of, we'll go ahead and clear out the super chats real quick. I think.
Thanks for being patient, guys.
I think the corn one was the last one. So John McGowan says, this for Dundermoose, I think. This is a strong return to YouTube. Good to see you back.
Good to be back,
John.
Thanks,
awesome.
Man. Appreciate the support.
Tag says, I will drop deep lore on y'all. Strategos use the timer to take your turn. I think so does chess.
Technically.
Oh, touche.
Ooh.
Do Canadians actually eat corn on the cob?
Not only do we eat corn on the cob, but in my neck of the woods in the Ottawa Valley, it's like the primary crop. Like we don't really grow wheat or oats or like barley here. It's all corn. And so like in the summertime you have corn stands on every corner down the street. Last summer we did a bunch of experiments. Is it better on the barbecue? Is it better boiling? We like A/B tested a bunch of different corn techniques.
Nice.
We're big corn enthusiasts around here. Corn and dairy.
R-dubs, never ask Night Danger about corn again. You see what you've done.
Bronstein.
John McGowan, thank you for the $5. I think the rules support checking for wandering monsters if the players waffle for too long. They're talking in character and might get jumped. I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Side initiative is probably the biggest help in keeping the pace fast so players stay engaged. I would agree with that. I think this one was for Mike. I don't know. It was for Mike.
Have you guys read John's book? Have you read John's book?
The Living Campaign.
Yes.
The Living
Yes,
Campaign.
I have.
It is so
it's
good.
Really good. I would, John's name came up, but Kelsey, if you're looking for a good resource for what one-to-one time does to a campaign and how timekeeping matters and how it changes a campaign from an adventure about a group of players to a living world, the Living Campaign is a really good book for that. And
it is the book.
Okay, the book. I feel like I've heard one of you recommend it in a past video, and so I'm almost positive I have a Kindle version of it. But I will. I have to revisit that. Yeah.
And Black Lodge did an interview with him about the book that is really, really quite a good listen as well. Where he kind of breaks down a lot of the ideas. No, John McGowan's a genius.
I did it first, just saying.
Yeah,
Thunder was first,
but they have young Steve, and
that's true.
I love young Steve.
His feet look way better than mine. So
wait. Dog cam.
There was a dog.
Oh, she ran for it. She'll come back.
No.
She knows.
Okay. All right. Kelsey, you're gonna be big until the dog gets there.
Oh no, we'll get Tilly.
Yep, that's the
Tilly.
incentive.
Come on,
Try
Tilly.
to get her over. Her name's Matilda.
Matilda.
I love it. Like after the book.
Perfect.
All right. No, I'm not gonna do that to you. You're first now, though. I'm not gonna switch it. Yeah, I am. All right.
So Kelsey, so I have an open season from June until the end of August. I'm going to be traveling. And so which con should I go to play in one of your games or maybe run a game for you?
Oh my goodness. So June to August, there are a couple. I believe that North Texas RPG Con falls in that window, depending on how late into June, which is a good one. I'm going to be at Gen Con, which is a huge one. That one's tough. Unless you're planning a year in advance, it's really hard to get to it, and it's just crazy. But what else? I'm going to be at Origins is also it's a little bit bigger, but I would say North Texas. If you can get to North Texas RPG Con, that's a really good one. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And that's in Dallas.
Yeah. I can only come to America like once a year, so
I
have a summer vacation. So everybody. From Louisiana, so Texas actually would be very doable.
Yes, and a lot of I know like Black Lodge will be there, and a bunch of people. Honestly,
Blackwall will be there.
They'll be there.
Blackwall?
Yeah,
Cool.
And a lot of cool people. Just a lot. It's very old school focused, and so I like it. Yeah, that would be a good one if you can. If you can sneak away to that one, that would be awesome.
And Harmony's gonna be at
I'm gonna be at Dave Con. Yeah, in a couple weeks. I'm excited.
She's gonna be a guest at Dave Con, and she's gonna get to play Bronstein with Wesley, so that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Vic for doing that for me. He watched one of my streams. I think it was the one with Jack McCarthy, and afterwards he was like, "Hey, do you want to come up as a special guest? I'll make sure you get to play with David Wesley." He signed me up first before the signups were even open. I was the #1 spot on it. Gosh, that was awesome. But I can't wait.
Oh my gosh, I hope you'll share with everybody how it goes, because you're going to become a firsthand source of.
I absolutely will.
That knowledge. Yeah. I'm so interested to hear about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm excited to do. I've never met any of that crew before. I've never met like really many people from Twitter. The only people I've met from Twitter are people who were like, "Hey, Harmony, sorry to message you. I'm in Orlando. Do you want to meet?" And like I was just like, "Sure. I'll go meet."
If somebody was like, "Hey, I'm in Beijing, come hang out," I'd be like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah.
Whoa. More rare coming from this side,
I think the only chance I would ever even have of bumping, because I can't go be hopping down over the border for days at a time. I got small ones running around. But I'm hoping this fall to get down to Claricon, which is he's got a YouTube channel, The Dungeon Minister. He's a big Beckme guy, Father Aaron, really friendly dude, super nice guy, and he runs a convention, I think out of his church hall, or like it started there. Cool. And like Bandits Keep has been there a couple times and stuff. So I'm hoping maybe I can get down there this year, because that's like only like 3 hours and I don't have to cross the border. But but all these American cons, they're so far. They're so far from my frozen home.
We have born here.
I'm aware. My cousins used to live in Iowa, and
I'm in Michigan.
There's corn.
Canada Junior anyway, so.
That's Wisconsin. Jokingly, we'd always be like, "Well, we have basically the same accent. Mine's faded a bit, but it can come right back when I'm home."
Buddy of mine lives just on the opposite side of whichever Great Lake Thunder Bay is on. Thunder Bay on the Canadian side. He lives like right like across the border on the other side of the lake, and his accent sounds like basically exactly the same as mine. Like it's
So have you always been like a big con goer, or is this just kind of a new thing that's come like in the past couple of years for you? Because I know like I know you've been like going around to cons in the past few years, but was this always a thing, or is this brand new?
It's more of a new thing that I get to go to multiple cons. I used to go to Gen Con when I was a kid, when it was in Wisconsin. And that's where I met Gary Gygax, was at Gen Con in Wisconsin. I got to meet him there. Yeah.
I started going to Gen Con like when it switched from Wisconsin to Indiana, because I lived in Louisville at the time. So
we were probably at the same con and didn't know it.
Really? Because I only went in Indianapolis. I went there like all the time when I was a kid. My dad used to take me. I remember my first Gen Con. I was like a kid, and I'm sorry, I gotta tell it. I was with my mom and dad, and my mom was there, and she's like not a she's not a con goer, she's not a nerd, she's like the non-nerd in the family. And she grabs me, she's like, Harmony, look, it's Peter Pan. And of course it's a guy dressed as Link from Zelda, right? It was like the only thing she recognized, and she was so happy to find Peter Pan at the con. Anyway.
Oh, that's so sweet. She really tried.
Yeah, I loved it.
How cool! But so you went when it first switched to indie.
I think somewhere around then. My dad was like really big into that stuff and used to take me. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to play RPGs because of religious reasons, but I was always into the board games there. So
it's a good board game con for sure. Yeah.
I don't know, like this is so far off the topic of Shadowdark, but do you are you a board game person? Or
I'm not so much, because I got really absorbed. I would be, I think, if I had played them more, but I was really obsessed with D&D, and then I had a very, very aggressive Magic the Gathering phase as well in like late high school. Oh, you too? Oh man.
I was allowed to play Magic the Gathering, but not D&D. It was like so unfair.
There's
Commander.
Double standard. Yeah. Oh, Commander. You play Commander.
I do.
I need to get back into it, because I was away from it for a while then, and I used to there's also an old school movement in Magic where it's like the only playing stuff that was put out in like 1993 and 94.
Okay,
and
I could get into that.
It's like limited to the original couple of editions, and for some reason I find it really charming. But they have to allow you to use like proxied cards, because I don't have the $30,000 Magic card set. Like that's not a thing that I would do, and so they're pretty gracious about letting you use the proxial cards. But suffice to say, I probably would have played more board games if I hadn't been just way too invested into playing D&D and Magic.
What Magic color is? What's your color in Magic?
Yes. I gotta ask yours too. Okay. I think that I'm probably a straight blue player. I feel like I'm a blue player at heart, which is the most like.
Right. Well, it's been a fun stream, everybody. Let's go ahead and kill it.
We can't be friends anymore. I know. Wait,
I'm green black. Green black.
Okay, no, but green black is really cool. It's really cool. Soulmonger days? Do you remember the Soulmonger? That was cool.
And I heard you mention Llanowar elves in your stream a couple of days ago. You're like, Llanowar the elf. I was like, oh, I got that one.
You got the joke. Oh, good. But I don't know, Harmony, if I was to become a board gamer, where would you suggest I start then?
Oh my God, chat's roasting me right now. Right, so there's this game that I am.
Say it anyway.
Cosmic Encounter.
It's incredible.
Cosmic Encounter.
It's a wonderful game.
She taught me how to play.
That's gonna dunk on me for this.
I got it from my brother on Harmony's recommendation last year for Christmas, and we've played it like at least once a month since, and it's a blast. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful game. 10 out of 10. Cosmic Encounter is great.
Cosmic Encounter. Okay, that's on the list. Am I gonna regret this?
No,
it's like if Risk was a competently designed game.
Okay.
I'm known for telling everybody to play it because I think it's so I think it's actually a really good game for people who like Bronstein like games, because it's not diplomacy. It's not something that it'll take you all day to play. Oh God, I'm going to talk about Cosmic Encounter, guys. Everyone
do it. I'm here for it.
It's not a game that's going to take all day to play, but it's a game that'll take an hour or two to play. that has like the negotiations and alliances and mind games, and there's a lot of above the table play to it. Like you're trying to figure out, which encounters you're willing to lose and how to benefit from that, and you're really negotiating with other people in ways that you don't in other 2-hour board games. I'm done, chat, I promise.
No, I was glad I was totally. You guys all lost me when you were talking Magic the Gathering. I just lost focus.
I'm so used to it because all of my players for my regular D&D group they all play Magic every other Friday, and like my brother's been playing since 9th grade, and they're always trying to
nerds.
Well, they're always like, "Hey, Devin, you want to come out to Magic?" And I'm like,
No, thank you. I like money.
I like money.
Wait. Do you guys want to know something really cool about Magic the Gathering?
Yes.
This is actually true. You can look it up. Richard Garfield made Magic the Gathering as an attempt to design a 2-player version of Cosmic Encounter. Actually true.
And it all
Factual
comes back full
Look
circle.
what you guys did. You just served that right up for her, and she spiked it over the net.
I was literally like, what is she? She's going to reveal the deep lore. And then I was like, yes.
She just won. Harmony just won the internets.
It's true though. But like it's totally different.
Crafty man says drink.
Drink. She said the thing. But yeah, no, I was really into board games when I was younger, and really up into my 20s, really, because I wasn't allowed to play RPGs. So I kind of went from there. And then when I got into RPGs, I sort of went in with a board gaming mindset. And some people even today will like try and roast me and be like, Harmony's not a real RPG gamer, she's a board gamer. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm kind of both.
Yeah,
but yeah,
there's crossover. Yeah. There's and plus, like, I mean, the times I've played board games, like I have played Diplomacy quite a bit. As I guess is it a board game? It is a board game technically. It strongly informed my knowledge of role playing games, so they're very linked, obviously, and it's all the more power to you for having that knowledge. You know,
I actually think that my upbringing was very. I didn't get into RPGs till I was in 9th grade, but as a kid, my family was very, very, very into card games. So Dutch Blitz, Wizard, Rook, Pit, lot of card games, and I believe that my upbringing with cards and like playing cards all the time with all my cousins primed me and conditioned me into an adversarial DMing style and to be very pro PvP. It's like that kind of like. There's like 2 modes. Either I'm going to win and you're going to lose and like it's all or nothing. Or there's no way that my Uncle Al, he's got a thing he always says when he's losing in a game. He says, if I'm going down in flames and I'm taking you all with me. And so it's like anytime things start, it's like things are starting to go bad. It's like, okay, well, how can I like do as much damage as possible on the way out? And that's informed my DMing style. It's informed my style as a player. I think games have universal qualities that apply like across type and across genre, and what type of game you get into first is going to impact how you approach other games.
Yes,
I think that's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to agree. Yeah.
I think that's entirely true. And I think that there's a big mindset difference between a lot of people, not everyone who's into just RPGs and people who are into board games and games in general. And that is, how important are the rules to you? Because in a lot of RPGs, there's like a huge sect of people who will like say, the rules don't really matter to this game. We can kind of just do what we want. And I fall into the other camp of, I think the rules do matter and they need to be fairly enforced, and that sort of that's going to inform how the game works, and that's going to inform how your world works. And I think it's very interesting. Something I've noticed here is Shadowdark is a fairly rules light game. And yet you have somehow like come into this scene with a rules light game, and you've appealed to people like me and like a lot of others who are generally like rules as written people. Who are generally people that um, that are, man, this is hard to figure out how to say, that are into, rules. Alchemic Raker says rules light doesn't mean a non-game, though, and he's completely right. Because you've kind of come along with a fairly rules light game that gives the DM a lot of independent freedom, and you're appealing somehow to people who are very stringent, like by the rules players, which a lot of those people, by the way, like OD&D as well. So this isn't like unprecedented by any means.
Right.
But it's something I've observed about this, because like I do feel like that there are two sects of players kind of coming out of 5e looking for a game. There's Shadowdark and Axe is kind of the dichotomy here. They're like polar opposite games. And I don't know. It wasn't really a question, just an observation. I don't know. You can comment or not. It's up to you.
No, I appreciate the observation. I think it's true. I really do think that is kind of an interest. It used to be that it was like Pathfinder was the alternative for people who felt like they needed really crunchy games. But I don't think that Pathfinder has never been anywhere near an old school mentality game. And so I think that's an interesting split that we're starting to see. Is I think people are moving away from the big box style games and more towards the indie space, and the finding that there are offerings either for rules light structure or more dense structure that are I just think really well. I think that they work really well to capture what they're looking for, and they find it surprising. So I'm glad to hear that Shadowdark somehow, I think, because I can at least speak on why I think that might be the case for Shadowdark, that people who don't necessarily like rules light stuff sometimes still find something they like in it. And I think it was the attempt to try to create a unified way to resolve a lot of stuff that is really blanket covering of a lot of situations. Like I think Shadowdark has a unified resolution mechanic, and it answers a lot of like, how do we resolve this type questions. So I think it comes off as rules light, but it actually has like a really broad resolution mechanic for almost every situation. And maybe that helps it. Maybe that helps it feel more structured.
I think you see this in story games too. Like if you look at Apocalypse World or Blades in the Dark, those are games that often get described as rules light because the core resolution mechanic is very simple, right? Like it's you just roll die, like you for Blade's case, like you roll and you look for the highest die, or for Apocalypse World, you roll 2d6, add a modifier, and you're trying to get a 10 or higher, and that's kind of it. But you read the actual rule book, and there's all these procedures. There's all of these interlocking systems that are mostly happening behind the screen. They're mostly happening on the GM side, that make things flow. It becomes and so you see like these original games, either Apocalypse World or Blades, that are they're big. They're like 300-page books, and there's a lot of material there. And then you look at the derivatives, the clones, the hacks of these games, and they are very light, sometimes like less than 50 pages, and they describe themselves as rules light because it doesn't have any of that supporting structure of procedure. And I'm building up to an argument here, so if you bear with me, this is, I think, what happened with the OSR, which is that a game like BX and then AD&D as well has a lot of, like, the core experience of playing the game is easy as dirt. Like, I was able to pick up AD&D as a teenager extremely intuitively after about 20 minutes, because it's just like, okay, I roll my dice and I either win or I succeed or fail at what I'm doing. It's very simple. But all of those procedures are cooked in the rulebook, and people play them for a long time, and they learn them and they internalize them, and then they go to make their own hacks or their own derivatives or their own clones, and they don't include any of the things that are muscle memory to them. And this is something that I've criticized a number of people about, which is just often you'll hear, especially in like D&D YouTube, they say, oh, if you're looking for a first RPG, you should check out this game because it's super rules light and you don't need to like learn a lot, and it's going to be really easy for you to pick up. And I think that's a mistake. I think you should be recommending something a bit more robust to a new person because they don't have the muscle memory that you have. I think a lot of recommendations, people don't think about what is second nature to them. They don't think about what they already know, and they don't think about the skills that they've picked up.
Cursive knowledge.
Exactly. And so when they try to get people to when they try to recommend games, they're not thinking about the fact that this person might have no idea how to do things like check for reactions, or how to design a dungeon, or how far apart should points of interest on a hex map be. And I think what I noticed reading Shadowdark, I was reading through it today, compared to a number of other, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to be like that, but a number of other like OSR and OSR Lite or adjacent games, Shadowdark actually has a fair amount of that underlying framework in the GM section at the end. Like there's a lot of those procedures and a lot of those, even just in the form of random tables. There's that substructure there so that a new person picking up the game can actually pick it up. And Black Lodge is bullying me into naming them, and I'll name one. It's just I was really comparing it with a very similar game, like aesthetically, which was the Black Hack, which was like an OD&D retro clone. And I tried reading it, and I'm like, this is kind of cool, but I'm doing all the heavy lifting here. There's almost no rules in it. There's almost no. This game assumes that I already know how to play. And so it becomes just like a set of, it's like a Cole's Notes version of a game. It exists as reminders of what you already know. And I think that we do a disservice to new players when we recommend Cole's Notes instead of recommending a complete game.
I like
argument
that.
made.
I like your argument, and I have to give credit to Basic Expert, like the rule system at large, because I think it's so instructional, and I very, very deeply, tried to model Shadowdark, some of the way that Shadowdark presents its gameplay methods on Basic Expert. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, you were designing from 5th edition, like primarily when you made this. And I was like, actually, I think that a lot of the philosophical presentation decisions in Shadowdark, the information decisions, the scale of complexity was really modeled on BX. And so that was a huge factor in how I decided to try to present the gameplay loops of the game, was referring to that very instructional set of original D&D rules.
My favorite D&D.
Not technically, but yeah, for me it is too. Honestly, I really do admire the AD&D line for what it did, but I'm a more simple person at the end of the day, as you all know.
I love BX,
so I can get by. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One thing we haven't asked you yet.
Here's my question.
But
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. You had a follow-up before I
was thinking more like before we wrap up, we always ask our guest favorite Appendix N author, and we haven't done that yet with Kelsey.
Oh.
Well, I got a doozy. I said I wasn't going to bring the good questions. I was going to say I got a doozy first, and then we can ask her who her favorite Appendix N.
Yeah.
How are you so amazing at timing? Because your timing is impeccable, girl. Your first Kickstarter was like propelled into the stratosphere because of the OGL debacle, and people were upset and they were looking. And all of a sudden, here was this, it's got advantage, it's got disadvantage, it's got the stuff you like from 5e, and we're mad at the other company now. And then like boom, taken off, and then like jump forward to now, and like people are starting to become disenchanted with the direction that WotC's moving with, like the digital stuff and the 2024 version of the game. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, I just made a setting for the game that you guys like, and all of a sudden everyone's like, yes. And then like people are on YouTube, people are starting to call you the heir apparent of D&D. And so, like, how does that feel? And like, was it intentional, your timing, or was it just all a happy accident?
I have to say that Wizards constantly gives me material. They give me openings. Like they just can't stop. They can't stop giving me openings. Like sending the Pinkertons. Yeah, like they almost make it easy. But it's because I engineered the OGL crisis myself. That was actually my coup de grace.
Well done. Just take them all out. burn it down like the shucked oyster on the way out.
Just burn it. I know some people. I was accused of some incredibly. It is funny when Shadowdark first came out. People were like, "She has a secret WotC husband who's feeding her information," and I was like, "This
the CIA made Shadowdark successful. It was all an operation.
It was so.
Obama was involved.
USAID has been shut down now, and it can't happen anymore.
It was so funny. There was some really funny, like, because it was, I think the OGL obviously had a huge impact on the game's visibility. There's no question. I did bring my whole 5e audience to the game as well, and they were very receptive to it. And that might be something that the old school space was totally unaware of, understandably, because why do they care about 5th edition? So there are a lot of factors, but Wizards really makes it easy. I don't even have to ask. They just keep creating disasters for themselves. So.
And I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Harmony. I don't want to.
Yeah. I think it was a lot more than right timing, because Kelsey had kind of cultivated a pretty big 5e audience that she brought into the OSR space, where there were already a lot of designers competing in the OSR space, and I don't want to call people out here, because there were some very good games here, but I think that there was a consistent problem with people failing to appeal to the 5e audience, and the 5e audience is bigger than the entire OSR by several times, and I think there was a consistent failure to appeal to that audience. And so Kelsey kind of started in the 5e audience and brought her audience into the OSR. And I think that was kind of the difference. Yeah, the timing was good, but I mean, there were a couple things that came together there.
I think it's like Sursova, the magazine publisher, talked about this with short fiction, like short sci-fi and fantasy fiction. The problem is everyone always says, "Oh, we need fewer doorstopper novels and more short fiction," but almost all the short fiction. Hey, Mongoose and Meerkat, very nice. Almost all short fiction is being written. Everyone who wants to publish short fiction is also the people who are asking to read it, and so you have this kind of self-consuming market where it's a bunch of authors all selling to each other, and they just like, I take $5 out of your pocket, and then you take $5 out of my pocket, and it's just like this infinite loop. And I think the OSR kind of ran into that problem with like BX clones, where it's like it's everyone who writes a BX clone has also bought all the other BX clones, and so nobody's making any money because they're just kind of all passing it around in a circle for all these different reskins of that core game, and not ever really breaking out into a larger market.
And I think, too, kind of jumping off of what Harmony said, and also acknowledging that when you're bringing, the 5e audience is something that a lot of us grew into 5e together. A lot of us did play prior editions of D&D, and a lot of us went along with D&D that was coming out as it did because we sort of trusted the brand, and only started to lose trust in it like many years, deep into the 4th edition era, I think, is when a lot of people were like, what's going on here? And 5th edition was sort of an attempt to bring back trust, and 5th edition kind of worked. It kind of worked to do that. So a lot of us are old schoolers coming forward along into 5th edition. And I think that the old school space, if they remember that, then they might remember that there are people who prefer their style of play that are currently locked into 5th edition. And if you can find them, you might start finding an audience you didn't realize that you had. And I think that I was very fortunate that was kind of my situation. And the 5th edition material I published, I think in some ways appealed a little bit to people who liked a different style to begin with. And so I don't know. I think the old school space, I don't know. There's this tendency to treat 5th edition as the enemy, but it's like, I think I have a little bit of old school street cred, and I just went along all the way up through 5th edition and then became disillusioned with it. And so if you can find those people, you can find an audience you didn't know you had. That's sort of the moral of the story, I think.
End of the day, the longest campaign I ever ran was with 5th Ed. It was 2014 5th Ed, when it dropped, was a very viable way of playing the game. And I think people have it's been long enough that people have figured out what works and what doesn't work about it, and they've tinkered it down and either added or taken away rules respectively. And and also I think there's the souring of business practices. Like people don't dislike fifth edition per se. They dislike the corporate egregore that's attached to it.
Yeah, and it's becoming noticeable to them, which for most 5th edition people, they have no idea. They don't know about the OGL crisis. They didn't know what that was. Like, they don't know about any of this drama, but now it's actually becoming visible to enough of them that it's making an impact.
And most importantly, it's becoming noticeable to the DMs who pay for all the books.
Yes.
And I actually don't even dislike 5th edition. Alchemic Raker says in chat here, and he's correct, 5th edition is actually pretty great up through Xanathar's Guide. But yeah, a lot of the official supplements did go downhill after that. And actually, I know there have been people in the 5e space who have been really dedicating resources to teaching people how to run great campaigns with 5e. Crossface Killer is one of them. Alchemic Raker is another one. These guys have been invaluable to me because the thing is, people will say that like 5e is missing a lot of rules to handle specific circumstances, but no, it's not. They're in the DMG. The DMG actually has some pretty solid stuff in it, and I'm actually like I'm one of the people who will sit there and defend the. I personally think that 5e is the best modern edition of D&D. I don't like 4th edition very much. I think 3.5 was way too bloated, but I think 5th edition up through Xanathar's is approachable, but not overwhelming. And I appreciate that. It's good for getting new players in. It's but it doesn't overwhelm them. And I don't know. I'm always going to stand for 5e, but I love Shadowdark too. I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I like a lot of games, so
you can like more than one game.
Yeah,
that's cool. A particular thing from the chat there from Subdeacon K. I got excited for 5e, but got bored. It's like playing God. Okay, I'm calling you out there, buddy. If you can't die, if you find that you're like never dying in 5th ed, it means that your game master is a coward who is pulling his punches with you. When I ran 5th ed, we had an average mortality rate of 2 players dead every two characters dead every 3 sessions. A 2 to 3 ratio of at least 2 character
players
deaths
only
every 3
rarely
sessions.
Sometimes.
If 5th ed feels like easy mode, it's almost certainly because your DM is a coward.
Night Danger, I'm so glad you said that because I've been playing. I've got a buddy. It's his first time DMing, and he's running us through Dragons of Icespire Peak, and I've lost like 3 characters so far. Like I started with a wizard, and I was in Nomengard, and I tried to grab their spell book, and like 3 of them hit me with magic missile and just instantly kill.
All you have to do to kill a 5th ed character is to make sure one, never fudge your dice. Don't do that.
Right.
But then 2, don't fudge your dice and play the monsters intelligently. Like try to kill the players. Like really actively try to kill the players. Hit them when they're down. Aim for their weaknesses. Like just and if your players are elite and intelligent and good looking, they will rise to the challenge and come up with standard operating procedures to outperform you, and you'll enter this arms race of tactics of belligerently trying to kill them and them belligerently trying not to get killed. And it's great. It becomes a very fun game that is almost entirely about fighting monsters and nothing else. But it's a fun monster fighting game.
Oh God. No, I totally agree with that. But I don't know. I think Shadowdark was a brilliant kind of fusion of old school and 5e. I still quite enjoyed it, I will say. I'm trying not to simp, guys, but it's hard.
No, it's okay. There's mutual admiration society because I love you guys are very, very cool YouTube content and I'm like I want more people to find their way to your ideas because they're so deeply interesting and so exciting to use, and so I'm trying to do my small part in being like, listen to these folks over here. They've got really cool ideas,
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah.
The quickest way to get a bunch of nerds angry is to have good ideas.
Seemingly.
I don't know what it is. Well,
it's ressentiment all the way down.
I do feel like since I've been taking a break, since I took a step back, I have felt a warmness in my heart for people that are in our same space that like violently disagree with me. And like when I'm in it and I'm like, no, this is the right way to play and this is wrong way. But like now that I've taken a step back, I'm like, you know what? We don't have to agree on everything, but we are passionate about the same things. So maybe it will be a kinder, gentler Dundermoose coming back. Who knows?
Oh, that's
cutting the mustache off took away your vitality and your fire.
Just like Samson and Delilah, man.
Exactly. Your strength is gone, and you don't have the will to be as sufficiently mean as you must.
I was used to waves of masculine authority
doing it right now.
radiating off of the mustache, and
all right.
And now I just turn my head to the side and smile. I got my hands
folded. We're about to wrap up, but first we can't wrap up without super chats. All right.
And Appendix N answer. I want to hear the Appendix N author.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that first. Actually, let's do that first.
Well, okay. So I have an obvious answer and then I have an unobvious answer. So I love every Conan short story by Robert E. Howard ever written, ever. Like, I love them all. But I feel that there was a contemporary writer at the time, a contemporary writer who was not on Appendix N, who would have been, but released her first book the year that original D&D came out. And that was the book specifically were the Wizard of Earthsea trilogy. And those are like, to me, honorary Appendix N. And I feel especially the first two, like, and like, Tombs of Etuan, that I am sure that those would have been an Appendix N if they had only come out like 2 years sooner. So I'm going to give that as my sneaky fake answer.
All right. Acceptable.
Okay.
Didn't Earthsea get adapted by Studio Ghibli at one point?
We're going to pretend that never happened.
Right. Okay, was it bad? I haven't watched it.
No, we don't bring that up.
We've been working through the Ghibli movies with my kids, and we just did Arrietty, and they loved it. And but if that one's bad, maybe we'll just
no,
I mean, it's beautiful. The style is always beautiful, but
but the story is the big thing for those movies. My wife and I just went to see Princess Mononoke in the IMAX release that they've been doing, and it was that's such a perfect movie. It's so wonderful. And so I'm sad to hear that the Earthsea adaptation was not good, but I haven't read the books, so
it's still weird hearing Billy Bob Thornton's voice come out of that character though. I'm like, why does that Japanese guy sound like he comes from West Virginia?
Yeah. I love that.
I forgot that.
But, all right, real quick. Victor Gorchev, $2 for Dunder's mustache fun. The funny thing
Victor.
was,
I will start throwing it immediately.
You're free to donate money to me for Dunder Moose to grow a mustache, I'm sure.
Yeah. €2 will get you 2 whiskers.
Ooh. Alchemic Raker, $5. Thank you so much. He says, I'll be at NTRPG Con as well, June 4th through 8th. Maybe we'll run into each other.
Yes.
Oh, North Texas. That's what that is. I wasn't sure the abbreviation. Doc Flamingo, thank you. He says, for the Canucks, as a Canadian, are you not legally obliged to say everything in both French and English? Also, rashers isn't bacon. What is rashers?
Oh, well, so Canadian bacon is like the pea meal bacon, like but I think there's some people who disagree about that distinction. I don't speak any French. My wife speaks to our kids in French, and so then they sometimes talk to me in French, and I don't know what they're saying. Which is so I tell my students whenever I'm teaching French, like as a supply teacher, sometimes I'll say I speak as much French as you would expect a 4-year-old to, so talk slowly with me, like.
And this one was, I think, to Dunder or Mike. I don't know. It doesn't tell me.
Yeah, it says, as my booker, should the Bro XT and women's division team up at DaveCon for the Bronstein? I think so. I think I envision a bright future where Griff and the Blackmore bunch and the Bros join elbows and walk off into the sunset like the monkeys with the legs going out each way. I think Bros should play Bronstein, and it should inform how we talk about the Bronstein variants or the Bronstein likes that we play. And I want everyone to get along and be friends. Now, all of my favorite people just love sniping each other online, so we'll see how. I mean, Wargamer's gonna wargame, right? But yeah, I recommend you to come.
But as far as should the Bro XT and Women's Division team up, I'm game if you are. Yep.
Right on.
Never betrayed anybody in these games. But also we have Joel Peterson, have to go, but couldn't have been a cooler group of people together. Welcome back to the Internet, Dunder. Kelsey, congrats to all your success. Please talk about corn for the rest of the podcast. Bye. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you. We've had a high ratio of corn discussion percentage-wise. You know,
I feel in my element.
Is that a dog whistle or something? Do I not know what you guys are really talking about?
No, it's not a euphemism.
Corn on the cob.
Yep.
You could say that this conversation is going in one ear and out the other.
Shucks.
Paul Bigby says, thank you for bringing this conversation together. I think it would be great to hear everyone together again after the Western Reaches PDF are released. If Kelsey will grace us with her time again, we would probably never say no to her.
She'll be even busier at that moment, though. Like,
yes,
that's when you're like fulfilling and stuff.
I hope not, but
you are welcome anytime you want to come, Kelsey.
Well, thanks, you all. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you, and I thank you so much for answering my Bronstein questions. Because genuinely, I'm really excited to try running my own Bronstein like thing, and I could honestly ask you questions all day. I'm sure I'll be asking you more offline via the internets and all of that if you wouldn't take that. So
offline via the internet.
All right. Just anytime.
That makes no sense.
Are you gonna write me? You're gonna write me a letter, or?
Yeah, it's my carrier pigeon squad will be arriving at your home.
Smoke stick.
Crafty Matt says, Kelsey, your Fires of Isk was the cornerstone of a year-long 5e D&D campaign of mine.
Cool.
Oh, awesome! That's a 20th level adventure that I wrote. I'm so glad to hear that. That's a rare one. Thank you.
And Victor says, I'm the biggest Kelsey simp in Deutschland. I appreciate that you gave me money to simp for Kelsey. You're always welcome to give me money to simp for Kelsey.
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced doucheland. I think you got it wrong. Yeah. I may be wrong, but that's what I think.
Is this one yours, Dunder?
I think so. Black Lodge Games with the $5. Thanks, bros. Kelsey, tell Trevor Duvall to take a break and come to NTRPG.
I know he's been so quiet working on getting all of his stuff done. I gotta make sure he's alive. He did Broken Empires RPG, and he's really, really nice and cool in person. He's a great guy. So I'll try to harass him about it. I'll message him, see if he's free.
And then last one that I am aware of so far, Gelatinous Rube, $10. Thank you. He says, I'm here to say Kelsey is a class act and I miss Dundermoose. I miss him. I love when you guys give me money to compliment them. That's the best.
Dunder, you've been missed. You've been missed.
I can't believe it. Like, well,
yeah.
you wonder, like, because the YouTube thing, you're trying to keep it going, and then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna take for Lent. I am not gonna do my own channel. I took Twitter off of my phone so that I'm not just looking at my phone while I'm around my family. And we had spring break, went down to Florida, but not Harmony's part. It's been great, but you wonder, you're like, okay, if I just disappear, would anybody even care? And I'm really touched. You guys are making me feel great with the support coming back here. So it is still Lent. The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm honoring my commitments to the awesome group of people that are on the screen here. But no more This is Dundermoose straight content. This is mirrored to my channel, but no more straight content until after Easter. So I'll see you guys then.
Yeah, looking forward to it, I miss all my Catholic friends on Lent. All the ones that give up Twitter. But Dundermoose, you especially. It hasn't been the same without you.
It's just not the same without the website becomes worse, and then on top of that, because it's Lent, and everyone's fasting.
Everyone's
the forces of evil are out there to make you angry on the internet.
Rage increases.
The Lenten demons are real.
The hanger.
All right. And before we wrap up, Kelsey, do you have any last words for us? Anything that we should have asked you or you wanted to ask that we did not get to?
No,
I'm sorry.
You guys asked great questions. Thank you. And thank you for indulging my questions too. And I hope we can talk more because this was really fun. And it's so truly great to meet you guys like talking like this instead of just through text. So I'm really glad that we got to do this. Thank you.
Right on.
It was great. All right. Thanks, guys. I think are we ready to wrap up? I don't know if anybody else has.
Yeah, we're running long here. So.
Okay.
One more thing is go check out the Kickstarter. There's still time to get in on the next big thing in tabletop role-playing games. You will be kicking yourself if you miss out. Everyone's gonna have the fancy designer version, and you're gonna be looking at a PDF going, man, I wish I'd have gotten for the slipcase. So check it out on the Kickstarter and show Kelsey some love, y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
only 75,000 Canadian dollars away from 3 million.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Which means over the course of this stream, you have raised 5,000 Canadian dollars.
Whoa!
That's a lot of corn.
That's like $1.50 US. So
wait, what is that in human dollars?
What is that in America? I don't know. I don't use Yankee dollars. That's
okay.
I'm not familiar.
How much is that in freedom bucks, huh?
Not as many.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the Canadian dollar to human dollars conversions.
Right. Basically, I can't afford anything
for a piece of real bacon.
Okay.
That's the exchange
cool.
rate.
Anyway, thanks guys for hanging out. We will see you next time on Random Table. Farewell.
Love y'all.